Arjun had always found peace in the quiet corners of the cafe where he worked, nestled between bookshelves and the soft hum of coffee machines. He wasn't the type who enjoyed loud parties or bustling social events. Instead, he spent his breaks reading novels and escaping into worlds of his imagination. And when he wasn't lost in a book, he watched the world pass by through the large cafe windows. One rainy evening, the door to the cafe swung open, letting in a gust of wind and a boy with drenched hair, dripping clothes, and the brightest smile Arjun had ever seen. The boy, Kiran, rushed in, shaking rainwater off his camera bag. "Do you have any coffee that can bring someone back to life?" Kiran asked, grinning despite the cold. His eyes sparkled with an energy that made the dimly lit cafe feel a little brighter. Arjun, startled by his boldness, fumbled with the menu. Maybe a hot chocolate?" "It's warm." Kiran chuckled. "Sold." As Arjun prepared the drink, he couldn't help but glance at Kiran, who was now seated by the window, peering through his camera lens at the raindrops on the glass. There was something carefree about him, as if he saw the world in a different light, finding beauty in even the smallest moments. When Arjun placed the steaming cup of hot chocolate in front of him, Kiran looked up and smiled, making Arjun's heart do a strange little flip. Over the next few weeks, Kiran became a regular at the cafe. Each visit was accompanied by a new adventure, a story of the places he'd been, the people he'd met, or the odd photos he'd taken. He always ordered something different, and he always left with a new picture. Sometimes, he'd snap candid photos of the cafe's customers, other times the sky outside, or the tiny plants on the windowsill. But more often than not, he would aim his camera at Arjun. "Why me?" Arjun asked one evening, when Kiran clicked yet another picture of him pouring coffee. Kiran lowered his camera, a playful smile tugging at his lips. "Because you're always in the background, quiet and thoughtful. But there's something about you that draws people in." Arjun blushed, not knowing how to respond. He wasn't used to attention, especially not from someone like Kiran, so confident, so free. As the weeks passed, their conversations grew longer. Kiran would linger in the cafe after closing hours, and Arjun found himself laughing more than he had in years. Kiran's stories of adventure were like sunshine breaking through the clouds of Arjun's otherwise quiet life. And Kiran, in turn, seemed to find comfort in Arjun's steady presence, the way he always listened, always cared. One chilly autumn evening, after the cafe had closed, they sat on the rooftop terrace, the city lights twinkling in the distance. Kiran leaned back against the wall, his camera resting on his lap. "I've been thinking," he said, breaking the comfortable silence, "about how life is like photography." Arjun raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to continue. "Sometimes, the most beautiful moments happen when you're not looking for them," Kiran said softly, turning his gaze to Arjun. "Like us." Arjun's breath caught in his throat. His heart pounded loudly in the quiet night, but he couldn't look away from Kiran's eyes, so full of sincerity. "Kiran, Arjun began, unsure of what to say. He had never been good with words, especially when it came to feelings he couldn't quite explain. But Kiran smiled that easy, warm smile. "You don't have to say anything," he said, reaching out and gently taking Arjun's hand in his. "I know." The warmth of Kiran's hand sent a flutter of happiness through Arjun's chest. It was strange and exhilarating, and yet, it felt so natural, as if this was where they were always meant to end up, side by side, beneath the stars, sharing the silence. From that night on, everything between them shifted. The small touches, the stolen glances, they no longer needed words to explain what was growing between them. Arjun found that being around Kiran felt like standing in a beam of sunlight. And Kiran, in turn, found a calmness with Arjun that he hadn't experienced before. They became each other's balance, Kiran's energy lighting up Arjun's quiet world, and Arjun's stability grounding Kiran's whirlwind life. They spent weekends exploring new places, Kiran with his camera and Arjun with a notebook, capturing their shared moments in their own ways. The cafe, once just a place of routine for Arjun, had become the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with warmth, laughter, and love. One evening, as they sat together, Arjun looked at Kiran and realized something. It wasn't just that he had found someone to share his time with. He had found someone who saw him, truly saw him, and loved him for who he was, quiet moments and all. And that, Arjun thought, was the most beautiful picture Kiran had ever taken.